My name is Layla Storm. I'm 28, and in a family of Savannah aristocrats who treat legacy like scripture. I've always been the footnote, the daughter who left, the mistake they don't mention at dinner. My mother, Margaret, polished my sister into a diamond for society. While I was the grit, she swept under the rug, the one who never fit the mold, never smiled the right way, never stayed quiet long enough. And now, returning home pregnant, uninvited, and far too aware of the secrets this family buried, I can feel the old house watching me like it remembers everything I tried to forget. People think the wedding fell apart because of what happened on the ballroom floor, but the truth is, the disaster started long before that. Long before my mother ripped my dress open in front of 300 guests. And I swear, the moment her hand touched that fabric, I knew the Storm family was finally about to break. The estate hadn't changed. Not one brick, not one flicker of the iron lanterns lining the cobblestone path. Like time had obeyed my mother's rules too. I stepped out of the cab, the hem of my satin dress catching damp leaves, and adjusted the strap digging into my shoulder. 7 months pregnant, heels on gravel, and a baby kicking like she knew she wasn't welcome here. Perfect timing. The valet, a young guy with a crooked bow tie, looked me over and froze. I offered a tight smile. No, I'm not a vendor. He blinked, took my bag, and I walked up the steps alone. Inside, the air was sharp. Expensive perfume. Wax. Silence. No music yet. Just the sound of my heels and the tick of the grandfather clock in the foyer. I heard voices ahead. Laughter. Her laugh. Cora. The favored daughter. Bride of the year. Groom financed by a merger between old money and newer money. She always got the timing right. I walked toward the sound. Then her. Margaret. Standing at the end of the hall like she'd summoned me with pure contempt. You wore that. Her voice sliced through the space. My hand went instinctively to my belly. It's navy, not white, and it's mine. That style, she hissed. You knew Cora's dress had the same silhouette. No, Margaret. Grandmother's silhouette. She gave it to me first. Remember? She stepped closer, her face still sculpted, lipstick flawless, eyes like cold iron. Take it off. Now, before the guests see. I didn't flinch. This is not your stage. I'm here to support my sister. I'll stay out of the spotlight. She looked at me like I'd insulted her god, or maybe just threatened her throne. There's a difference between quiet and invisible, Layla. You've forgotten which one you are. My stomach tightened. From nerves. Or from the baby rolling like she knew danger when she felt it. Then Margaret leaned in, her voice low enough to sting. If you ruin this for her, I will bury you twice. Once in gossip, once in court. I turned to walk away, refusing to let her see the tremble in my spine. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. Don't speak. You'll destroy more than just her wedding. I stopped cold, looked over my shoulder. Empty hallway. I stepped into the powder room and locked the door, stared at my reflection. You don't get to blink, I whispered to myself. You knew what this was. Someone knocked. Sharp. Urgent. But not Margaret's rhythm. I opened the door. No one there. Back in the hallway, a pair of women in chiffon giggled past, their eyes flicking to my belly, then away. I reached the bridal suite. My fingers hesitated on the handle. Cora's voice inside, muffled, then quiet. I turned the knob. Empty. That home. Lipsticks scattered. A champagne glass, still half full. A photo on the vanity stopped me. Cora, Margaret, and me. Years ago, back when I still thought loyalty bought safety. I slipped it into my clutch. Downstairs, the string quartet began to play. Time to show my face. I descended slowly. Guests turned, then turned again. Aunt Clarice whispered to a friend. The groom's father glanced at my stomach, then away. Family is not blood, I heard someone murmur. It's obedience. The music shifted. Faster now. I took my place near the side of the ballroom, out of the main view, close to the catering doors. Safe, watchful. Cora walked in, radiant. The room bloomed in applause. Margaret beamed at her, then turned to me with a smile meant to kill. A waiter passed by. I caught a glimpse of something in his pocket, a small earpiece. Too many eyes. Too many secrets. Another text buzzed. This one, from a different number. Hope your mix secure. Would be a shame if the wrong person heard the truth. I looked around, a slow panic rising. I was here to stay quiet, support Cora, leave with dignity. But the longer I stood in that room, the louder the house began to breathe. You should have never worn that dress, Margaret whispers. Then she turns, smiling, just as the doors open and the first guests arrive. The chandelier above me looked like it might fall. That was the first thought that hit me as the violinist hit a high, shrill note. Glass shimmered, nerves frayed, and my skin prickled like I was standing too close to an electric fence. I moved through the crowd with my arms tight to my sides. Every glance was a jab, every smile a blade. People here didn't speak in full sentences, they weaponized glances. "Isn't that Layla?" someone whispered, not bothering to lower their voice. "She looks different. She looks pregnant." That last word landed like a slap. I grabbed a glass of water from a tray. The waiter flinched as I did. "Sorry," I murmured. He didn't say anything, just nodded too fast and disappeared toward the kitchen doors. His earpiece glinted as he turned. Not standard issue for catering staff. I scanned the room again. Too many staff. Too many cameras, tucked subtly between flower arrangements. Phones out, filming. Not selfies. They were directed, calculated. This wasn't a wedding. It was surveillance. 10 minutes later, I was cornered between the gift table and the bar. Margaret had disappeared, which was worse than having her in view. She always struck from offstage. My phone buzzed again. "They're not watching you. They're filming the fallout." I stared at the text. Heart thudding. No sender ID. Just like before. I turned toward the stairs. Away from the cameras. Toward the bridal suite. I moved fast. Past the buffet. Past the cake, shaped like an opera house. Past the portrait of our great-grandfather hung like a threat. Up the stairs. The suite was cracked open. Cora wasn't inside. The vanity was a mess, lipsticks like weapons, hairpins spilled like nails across glass. A note on the chair read, "Emergency fix, tear in veil." But her veil was gone. No dress. No shoes. No signs of a bridal emergency. I stepped in, closed the door softly. Every part of me was screaming. The silence was wrong. Then I heard them. Voices. 2 women. Margaret and someone else. Maybe the planner. I leaned against the door, connecting the suite to the service hall. Just enough to hear. "She'll crack when the cameras roll," Margaret said. A pause. Papers rustled. "I told you, make sure it splits easily. Seam across the belly. Do it fast. We'll say it was an accident. She's pregnant. And that's the point." The other woman's voice lowered. "What if she doesn't react?" "She will. She's always been emotional. It's her only currency." I stepped back, nearly knocked over the chair. They were going to stage it. Make it look like I ruined their wedding. Make me the monster. That's when I noticed it. A second dress. On the chair. Navy. Maternity cut. My size. Torn straight through the stomach seam. The room spun. My hands shook as I grabbed the fabric. Someone had rehearsed this. Practiced the tear. Rehearsed the outrage. Like a script they were waiting to film live. I backed away. Almost tripped over the rug. My heel caught. I bent, steadying myself, and saw something glint under the dresser. A microphone. My mic. The one hidden in my bra. Gone. Replaced. With what? I turned it off instantly. but a faint red light blinked. Someone was still recording. I wrapped it in tissue, shoved it deep into my clutch. Outside, the music changed again. Processional. The ceremony was starting. I grabbed my phone and texted back the unknown number. Who are you? What do you want? 3 dots appeared, then disappeared, then came back. Just keep smiling. The show's about to start. I stared at the mirror. My dress looked perfect, but I knew what was coming. A trap stitched in satin. A weapon disguised as elegance. She'll crack when the cameras roll. And suddenly I wasn't afraid. I was furious, because if they wanted a show, I'd give them one. She wasn't just going to ruin my day. She was going to make it a show. They're planning something, and I'm the main act. The ballroom glittered like a trap. Chandelier lights flickered, casting fractured shadows. The air tasted like champagne and tension. I stood at the edge of the crowd, heartbeat syncopated with the cello's pulse. Cora walked down the aisle in slow motion, lace floating, tears in her eyes, or maybe that was just the shimmer. Margaret was across the room. She didn't look at me. She didn't have to. A woman doesn't need to scream when she already owns the silence. Layla. A whisper. It came from behind. I turned. Raphael, one of the waiters. Late 20s. Nervous eyes. He didn't look at me when he spoke. You shouldn't be here. Funny, I said. That's exactly what my mother said, right before she ordered my public execution. He blinked. They're wired. The servers. The staff. Half of us have recorders. I stared at him. That legal. He laughed dry. This house is its own country. Then he slipped a napkin into my hand and walked off. I opened it. Inside, a scribble, watch the toast. And don't let them see you flinch. Dinner dragged. I picked at asparagus I didn't order. The seating chart placed me between my high school ex and a woman I didn't recognize, but who clearly knew everything about me. You're the one who ran away, she smiled. No, I said. I'm the one who came back. My water glass had lipstick on the rim before I touched it. Not mine. I didn't drink it. Margaret tapped her glass. The room hushed like someone pulled the oxygen out of it. She stood, regal, ice and steel. Thank you all for being here on this most sacred day, a celebration of union, of legacy. She raised her glass, because family is everything, especially when they know their place. The cameras swiveled toward her. A waiter with a wine bottle moved behind me. Too smooth. Too direct. The bottle tilted. A slip. The splash hit me like a strike. Dark red spread across my stomach, wide, blooming like a wound. Gasp. Whispers. Laughter somewhere behind me. I stood slowly. The dress clung to me, wet, sticky, thick. Margaret stepped forward. Layla, she said, voice full of stage horror. Oh, darling, how clumsy. She reached out, and in one swift, practiced motion, she grabbed the fabric above my belly and ripped. The seam tore like it had been cut hours ago. Gasps. Phones up. Flash. 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 My pregnant stomach exposed to a room of 300 people. For a second, there was only silence. Then the first camera clicked. A single voice from the back. Is she okay? Margaret leaned in. You wanted attention. Now you've got it. I couldn't move. Couldn't breathe. Then something hit the floor with a soft clink. Not a pin. Not glass. I looked down. The mic. From my bra. I never took it out. But it was on the floor. Which meant this wasn't my mic. It was theirs. Flash. 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 I stepped back. Margaret smiled wider. You've always had a flair for drama. I picked up the mic, held it in my fist like a weapon. And then the static buzzed in my ear. Not just recording. Broadcasting. I turned, catching Raphael's eyes from across the room. He nodded. The lights dimmed. The projector lit up. Unplanned. Margaret froze. The screen flickered, and the bridal suite appeared. Not from earlier. From before. A hidden angle. Her voice. She'll crack when the cameras roll. Gasps. A scream. Somewhere. Margaret rushed the AV booth. Too late. Cora was standing now. Pale. Trembling. She planned it. Cora said. My voice was calm. She orchestrated it. Security rushed in. Margaret shouted, but she was drowning in evidence now. I stepped forward. The lights hit my face. My dress torn. My belly bare. But I had never stood taller. This was never about the dress, I said. It's about what I know. And now, they know I'm not afraid to use it. The ballroom erupted the moment the screen cut to black. Voices rose. Chairs scraped. Someone gasped loud enough to echo. But all I felt was heat crawling up my spine. A spotlight without mercy. I turned before anyone could grab me and slipped through the side hall, clutching what was left of my dress. My heels clicked too loud on the tile. Every sound felt amplified, stretched, distorted. I ducked behind a column and exhaled, the first real breath since Margaret tore my dress open. The hallway was dark, quieter, cooler, but not safe. My phone buzzed. You handled that better than expected. Now don't stop. I looked around sharply. Nothing but shadows. Someone was watching. Someone close. A truth I'd learned a long time ago pulsed through my mind. The moment you expose a lie, everyone becomes a suspect. I moved. Fussed. The bridal wing felt detached from the noise, eerily so. Carpet muffled my steps as I pushed into the smaller hallway behind the suites. That's where I saw her. Cora, sitting on the floor with her knees drawn to her chest, veil tossed beside her like a crushed wing, her eyeliner smeared, her breath shaking. Cora! I crouched, wincing as the torn fabric pulled. She didn't look up at first. Then she did, and the look broke something in me. I can't go out there, she whispered. Not after that. That wasn't you, I said. That was Mom. Her lip trembled. Everything is Mom. Silence. Heavy. Then she swallowed. She said if I did marry Nolan, she'd make sure Dad's medical bills never cleared. My breath stilled. She wasn't lying. Nolan's family had clout, money, hospital boards. And Margaret? She never wasted leverage. She can't do that, I said. She already did. Cora pulled something from her robe pocket, a folded photo. She handed it to me. My blood iced. It was me, younger, standing beside a man. Dark hair, sharp jaw, arm around my waist. A red pen circle around him, another around me. And next to it, in Margaret's elegant cursive, remove, discredit, disappear. My lungs forgot how to work. She had this, Cora whispered. She said he ruined you, that she handled it. But the way she said it, Layla, she didn't sound sorry. A cold wave washed over every part of me. Memories flickered, too fast, too sharp. A hospital room, pain, needles, a voice telling me everything would be fine if I just didn't ask questions. The kind of lie that scars deeper than truth. I stood, legs trembling. We need to get your father out of her control. We need proof. There's more, Cora said. Layla, that mic they used? It wasn't just recording. It was... A loud thud interrupted her. A door slamming somewhere in the service hall. We froze. Footsteps. Slow. Heavy. Coming closer. Cora wiped her face and grabbed my hand. Layla, someone else is listening. Someone besides Mom. How do you know? She stared at me, terrified. Because the feed wasn't only playing in the ballroom. It was being streamed somewhere else. My stomach dropped. Streamed. Broadcast. To who? Another footstep. Closer. I grabbed the mic from my clutch, wrapped it in tissue, shoved it into a flower vase on a small hallway table. I didn't know why, instinct maybe. The urge to hide evidence the way prey hide scent. Move, I whispered. We slipped into the side corridor, pressing ourselves flat against the wall as the footsteps approached. A man passed. Not a guest. Not staff. His suit was too formal. His shoes too polished. A small radio clipped to his belt. Private security. Margaret's? Or someone else's? His head turned slightly, as if he smelled something off. A beat. Another. Then he walked on. Cora squeezed my hand so hard I felt her nails. We need help, she whispered. We don't have help, I said. We have secrets. Those are stronger. Another quote drifted through my mind, one I'd told myself years ago when I ran. The truth is never a weapon until someone decides to use it. Tonight someone decided. When the guard left the hall, we moved again. The estate groaned under the storm outside. Windows rattling, shutters banging. The lights flickered. Cora stopped at a small side door. There's a passage behind this. Mom used to hide paperwork in the study at the end. I pushed it open. The narrow corridor swallowed us whole. Smell of dust. Old wood. Something metallic. The study door was cracked. I nudged it. Inside, shadows pooled like ink. Then my eyes adjusted. Drawers open. Papers scattered. And on the desk, a folder with my name on it. I reached for it. Cora grabbed my wrist. Layla, whatever's in there, you can't unknow it. I already can't unknow what she did. I opened it. Medical papers. Forged signatures. Copies of consent forms I never signed. Bills routed through shell accounts. My OBGYN's notes edited with whiteout and retyped sections. Cora gasped. She faked your records. I scanned the pages, hands trembling. She didn't just fake them, I said. She doctored them. Lightning cracked outside, illuminating the room in a single white flash. Something else was on the desk. A burner phone. Still on. Still recording. A video thumbnail blinked. I pressed play. Margaret's voice filled the room. Cold. Surgical. Make sure she never finds him. If she does, everything falls apart. My throat closed. Find who? Cora whispered. Before I could answer, the video continued. A shadow entered the frame. A man. Tall. Familiar. My heart slammed against my ribs. No. Y whisperat. It can't be. Cora stared at me. Layla, who is that? My pulse pounded in my ears. He turned slightly in the frame. My vision tunneled. My breath stopped. Because the man Margaret was speaking to, the man who disappeared years ago, the man she told me was dead, was very much alive. And he was here. Right now. In this house. The room spun as the truth hit me like a blow. He never left. The thunder rattled the windows like dry bones. Rain splattered against the glass, each drop a warning. I pulled Cora behind the heavy oak door of the study. The halls behind us still hummed with whispers and outrage. Security guards, guests, phones capturing the destruction. Cora's lips trembled, her eyes wide. What do we do now? I laid out the folder on the desk, spread the papers like cards in a reckoning. Medical forms stamped, approved, consent signatures not mine. Bills routed through shell corporations. Forged invoices. My name, my body sold for silence. I snapped the top page back into the folder. Evidence doesn't mean safety, I said, voice low. But right now it means leverage. Lightning flashed. The desk lamp flickered. In that moment, the room was painted in white-hot clarity, the kind of brightness that shows every fault line. Cora swallowed. You think someone can leak this? Make it public. I glanced at the burner phone, still blinking red. More than public. I raised it. We leak it all. Tonight. She shook her head. We'll be killed. Exposed. Destroyed. I leaned close, looked her in the eyes. Sometimes fear is the price of truth. They forgot that truth can burn. Her breath hitched. Outside, footsteps coming down the hall. Slow. Intentional. I flicked off the lamp. Darkness swallowed the paper trail. I grabbed the folder and the phone. Fingers damp with sweat. Wet with rain and adrenaline. We move, I said. We slipped from the study, down the servants' stairwell. Hidden passage Margaret had never bothered to lock. Paint cracked, wood warped under our boots. The sound of wine glasses, smashing, and angry shouts made the stairwell feel like a tomb. At the door to the kitchen, I paused. A guard paced in the hallway outside, cigar glow flashing. Calm, watchful. I held up a finger to my lips. Cora squeezed it. When we moved silent. A clatter behind us. Ispoon. Nothing. But the guard's steps echoed closer. We ducked into a pantry, breath held. His heavy boots passed within inches. Then he stopped. I saw his silhouette through the thin door. He whispered into a radio. Quiet. Impossible to ignore. We pressed back against the wall. Light leaking through the cracks. Cold. Accusing. Cora whimpered. I closed my eyes. Then the door burst open. He aimed. A gun. My heart froze. Cora shrieked. In slow motion, I yanked the folder into his face. Evidence. I spat. White flash. Eyes wide. He staggered. I felt it. Before I saw it, the pistol discharged. The bullet didn't hit me. It punched through the folder. Paper shredded. Glass shattered somewhere. The guard collapsed, choking on his own breath. Cora froze. I grabbed her hand, dragged her. We ran. Through corridors flooded with panic. Downstairs. Out the back door. Rain swallowed us whole. The night swallowed us. Outside, under flickering streetlights, a black SUV idled. Engine purring like a beast waiting. I flung the phone inside, folder in hand. Cora hesitated. I looked at her. Face pale, mascara smeared, belly trembling. I reached out. Move. She nodded. Tires spun on wet asphalt. Headlights cut through the dark. I exhaled hard. Moments ago, I was the prey. Now, I had the weapon. Someone closed the laptop behind me. A deep voice. You sure about this? I pulled off my shredded dress and dropped it in the SUV. Saw the blood smear on my hand. Didn't care. I'm sure, I said, because that dress was never the crime. That dress was the excuse. They didn't argue. They just nodded. Later, in a cramped apartment far from Savannah, I watched the first clip go live. Dark screen. A black loading bar. Then Margaret's voice. Crystal clear. Calm. Deadly. She'll crack when the cameras roll. The comments exploded. Screenshots were already everywhere. Storm wedding scandal trended within minutes. I hid behind the curtain, hands on my belly. Cora sent me a message. 2 words. I stand with you. No more hiding. No more silent. But then the burner phone buzzed again. It's not enough. They want names. They want silence. And in that moment, I realized we didn't just leak a story. We opened a door that could lead to justice or to blood. The night ended. The world didn't. The evidence was out. But one question remained. Who was behind the camera? And how deep did this go? Rain pounded the townhouse window outside. Each drop a drumbeat on the night. Inside the cramped apartment where we'd holed up, Cora and I stood framed by yellow light. My phone glowed with new notifications, screenshots, tweets, shares. The hashtag was trending already. Storm family scandal. I closed my laptop. The first wave had hit. The truth was out. Margaret's empire was cracking. And we were standing right in the center of the wreckage. A text came through. Unknown number. Congratulations. Never thought you had the guts. I typed nothing. Controlled nothing. I just looked at Cora. She shook. Fear. Relief. Rage. She'll stop at nothing, she said. Then we make sure nothing else can stop us, I answered. Because the truth wasn't just a weapon, it was survival. Police lights flashed in the rain outside. Uniformed officers moved up the block, maybe responding to complaints, maybe acting on the leak. We'd prepared our documents. For once, the law was our shield, not our cage. A knock, 3 sharp raps. The door rattled. Cora jumped. My heart pounded. I peeked through the peephole. 2 detectives. She smelled of stale coffee and concrete. Miss Storm, one said, we have a warrant. We need to talk to you and your sister. Claim of assault, unauthorized recording, trespassing. My stomach twisted. The irony was heavy. They came for our safety. I opened the door slowly, hands raised but empty. Then let's talk, I said, because you've got tape, and so do we. Flashback in the police car. The detective's badge, the rain streaking across the windshield, the weight of cuffs in leather holsters. We handed over the folder. The medical forgeries, the burner phone video, the list of shell accounts, the email chains, threatening silence. He skimmed, then looked up. You're filers now, he said, voice flat but steady. I exhaled like armor dropping. For the first time, I felt cracks in the world edging toward dawn. A week later, the courtroom was quiet before the storm. Cameras lined the gallery. Reporters murmured like restless ghosts. The judge wore a face older than most of us. She asked for names, for evidence, for everything Margaret tried to bury. When I stood to speak, the floor felt like ice under my bare feet. I looked at the judge, then at Cora, then into the rows of seats where people traded pity for gossip, where power once stood. But I wasn't the same girl anymore. This is about more than revenge, I said, voice low but honest. It's about justice. For me. For Cora. For everyone who was told to shut up so someone else could shine. The courtroom held its breath. Judges don't usually speak like threats. Or maybe they do. Outside, we stepped into bright afternoon sun that felt like freedom. Press flashing. Questions screaming. But I felt ground beneath my feet. Margaret, led away in cuffs, glared at me, her face a mask trying to hold onto control. But I could see the cracks. She mouthed something. I nodded once. Simple. You lost, I said under my breath. That night, I sat on the floor of my new apartment. Summer rain tapping softly on windows. Baby kicking. Life inside me pulsing with hope. Cora beside me. She placed a hand on my belly. We'll be okay, she whispered. I closed my eyes. I remembered every insult, every shove, every lie. But I also remembered something else. The strength that rose when silence became unbearable. They said silence was golden. They were wrong. Truth is weightless until someone carries it. Then it becomes steel. I started writing. First for me, then for others. A blog, a hotline list, names, voices, stories. Because there were more like me, hidden, afraid, broken. I wanted them to know, you're not invisible. You deserve to be seen. A month later, I got a letter from a woman in another state, her words trembling but determined. She had walked away from abuse because she saw what I did, because someone finally said aloud what had been whispered in halls for too long. I folded the note carefully, placed it beside the baby's cradle. The world doesn't heal overnight, but sometimes justice begins with a single spark. As the city lights blurred outside, I stood by the window. Breathe deep. Let the air fill my lungs. Storms don't last forever. And I was done running. I was done hiding. Tonight I'm home.